Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular evening council meeting of Monday, February the 8th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. 1. Watch the meeting live or recorded. Individuals who wish to watch the meeting may view it on the District of Summerland YouTube channel, youtube.com, District of Summerland, live or recorded. 2. Register in advance to speak during the meeting. Members of the public who wish to provide comment during the public comment opportunities found under items 8 and 15 are asked to register in advance by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca with the following information: your name, your civic address, how you are going to be participating, whether it be by telephone or Zoom, and further details will be provided upon registration. Third, request to speak during the meeting. Those who have not registered in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities may connect to the meeting by calling the meeting conference line at 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. After I've provided everyone who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those on the conference line. Okay, corporate officer, are there any late items to introduce?
There are no late items, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Council, could I have someone bring forward adoption of the agenda? Councillor Holmes and Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Thank you. And then on to item 4.1 is adoption of minutes. January 11th, public hearing. January 11th, the regular council meeting, and January the 25th, the regular council meeting. Any changes or omissions? Okay, could I have someone bring forward adoption of those? Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, really short mayor's report tonight. On January the 27th, I attended the Southern Interior Local Government Association executive meeting. Much of the meeting was spent on finalizing the speaker series that will replace the in-person convention this year. Just a reminder of the upcoming deadlines for nominations to the board and for SILGA resolutions that the district might want to put forward that will be part of the virtual AGM. Registration for the speaker series is now open, and the first event is on February the 17th. So that's next Wednesday, Wednesday. Last week, CAO Graham Statt and I attended a number of sessions that were part of the Local Government Leadership Academy Forum, also held virtually this year. And I just wanted to give a shout out and recognition to Nick and Teresa Bram of Edge Hill Homes, who have won 4 gold awards for the work that they've done, 3 in construction, and this is through Canadian Home Builders Association, and 1 for interior design. So congratulations to those 2. And thank you so much for Nick for also finding the time to be on our Development Process Improvement Advisory Committee. So congratulations to both of you and your staff. And that's it for tonight. Over to you, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. For my report today, I just want to highlight a couple things. First of all, a virtual budget open house is going to be taking place this week on Wednesday, February 10th, starting at 4 p.m. Dave Svetlichny, our Director of Finance, will be presenting the budget, after which time he'll take questions from any participants. Now, normally there is an opportunity to engage in person with a lot of interaction with our staff, but of course, This year with COVID, we've had to make changes to do a Zoom session and with folks taking part remotely. That being said, we are still hoping that we can have good involvement with the community, and we hope many people will participate. We are letting the public know through the district website, Facebook page, and newsletter that if they wish to attend, they should email budget@summerland.ca prior to 3 p.m. on February 10th. I'm also pleased to report that the Recreation Department received a $1,000 grant from the province of BC to implement Family Day activities, which will include free swims, public skates, and a family bubble photo scavenger hunt contest over the Family Day weekend that will include prizes for winners, and COVID-19 enhanced protocols will be in place with limited registration available for the swims and skates. With that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Holmes.
If I could just ask the CEO a question regarding the Family Day funding, does it all have to be spent on one family day, or could it be spread out? Just because I know public skating anyway has been extremely popular with people having to sign up, and there's limited numbers, and so it'd be a shame that some people aren't able to take advantage because there's no space.
Through the mayor to Councillor Holmes, thank you very much for your question. I'd call on Lori. If Lori, you're still in the meeting, if you can answer that question for us. I don't have it at my fingertips.
Thank you, CAO Stat. Through to Councillor Holmes, the grant is for Family Day weekend, so we do have to allocate those funds for that weekend for celebrations of families. We did include 4 public skates and 2 public swims, and we were hoping that we can have 25 people for each of those, and we may add in a few more public skates because we had a few fill up today, and today was the first day of registration, so we'll try to get as many as we can through the weekend. Thank you.
Good, that's great to hear. Okay. I don't have anyone on the list, but maybe you could confirm for me, Karen, about the public opportunity, the first one. Is there anybody?
There's no one online, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So on to item 9, development reports. Official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment 12811 Lakeshore Drive, which is the Summerland Waterfront Resort. And I will pass this over to Brad for the staff report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a presentation, so I'll share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So we are in receipt of a application for a official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment. It's a site-specific text amendment to the Summerland Waterfront Resort, specifically for the building located at 12811 Lakeshore Drive. This is the south building of the resort facility, and actually further specifically to the units 521, 522, 527, 528, 629, 637, and 638. So a total of 7 of the 119 individual strata units within the resort complex. Oops, sorry. Go. So the official community plan indicates that the resort is currently designated as tourist commercial, and it's also located within the Lower Town strategic plan area. And for that reason, it's subject to a Lower Town development permit area, as well as a watercourse development permit, because obviously it is along the waterfront. For the zoning bylaw, the resort is split up into 2 comprehensive development zones. The first one being the Comprehensive Development Zone 2, which was the Phase 1 building, which is the north building of the site. Was zoned comprehensive development 2, and then phase 2 is the south building, which is zoned comprehensive development 5. And I'll get into what those two zones mean here. So just a historical review of the site. Phase 1 for the north building was received by a rezoning application was received by the district in the year 2000. In September of 2000, council gave 3 readings to a new comprehensive development 2 zone, as well as identifying the phase 1 building as the placement of that comprehensive development 2 zone, which indicated that the sole principal use of the site was for resorts, defined as a hotel with individual cooking facilities being permitted in each guest room. In October of 2000, a phase 1 rental pool covenant was registered to allow for the rezoning to be adopted, and then the council subsequently adopted the zoning amendment bylaws that were required and issued the development permit that was required for construction. In the phase 1 rental pool covenant, it described that all of the units were to be required to be used for commercial rental of the transient accommodation of tourists, visitors, and travelers. But that as well, owner use was allowed, but was restricted to have no more than 180 days in total per year, no more than 120 of those days being in the winter months, no more than 60 of those days being in the summer months, and also no use by owners being more than 30 consecutive days. Following the construction starting for the phase 1, the developer approached the district with a new application for the phase 2 building located in the south in 2004 to basically apply a similar comprehensive development zone as what was applied in phase 1, except for different siting regulations due to the land configuration of the phase 2 site. The comprehensive development 5 zone was developed by district staff, and again, it had the exact same sole principal use, being that resorts defined as a hotel with individual cooking facilities being permitted in each guest room. Again, similar to the phase 1 building, council required the developer to place a restricted covenant on title, which was the phase 2 rental pool covenant, which is also attached for council's benefit to this report. And the covenant had very similar language to the phase 1 covenant in that all of the units were required to be used only on a temporary basis, as well, mainly serving the tourism industry for tourist accommodation purposes. However, the only difference between the phase 1 and the phase 2 covenant was that there was no specific limitations on the number of days that a unit owner could use their unit, as was described in the phase 1 covenant, as was previously mentioned. So recent history, over time, since the resort was developed, some of the unit holders in the phase 2 development have taken up full-time residence within their units. In December of 2019, the district was made aware of this issue by the resort's Strata Council. And in discussing the zoning as well as the covenants with some of these unit holders, they've taken the position that the full-time residential use is permitted in the phase 2 building because there are no expressed limiting days for owner use within the phase 2 covenant. The district has clarified our position with the Strata and with all the unit holders within the resort with regards to this assertion, and has determined that from the purposes of our perspective with regards to the zoning and the official community plan amendment, the official community plan designation, that no full-time residential use is permitted, and that's as well consistent with both the phase 1 and phase 2 covenants that were registered on title. And correspondence that indicates this and that was provided to the Strata is also attached to this package for council for attachments number 7 and number 8. So legal and policy considerations. Like I mentioned, the from the district's perspective, the official community plan, the zoning bylaw, and the covenants for both phase 1 and phase 2 specifically express council's intention for this development to be used solely for the temporary accommodation of the traveling public, and is specifically in the context of a resort use for the Summerland Waterfront Resort. Further to that, the phase 1 covenant allows owner usage, but that owner usage is specifically restricted to 180 days per year. In addition to that, the phase 2 covenant has a number of relevant provisions that describe council's intent at the time for temporary accommodation of the phase 2 building. Within the covenant, there is language within recitals B and D that state temporary accommodation. As well, within the definition of owner use, there is as well a description of only temporary nature of accommodation purposes for owner use. There's also a limitations on use description in section 2. And then finally, within the phase 2 covenant, there are also provisions for all the unit holders to be part of the hotel booking system. And that's also included in the phase 2 covenant. And then finally, regardless of all that language, sections 2, 9, and 11 within the covenant specifically state that the covenant cannot exempt the unit holders from the district zoning bylaw, and therefore, as well, the district zoning bylaw is paramount to the covenant and must be followed over and above the covenant for all of the units within the phase 2 building. And then further, in discussions with our lawyer, case law has determined what specifically is considered temporary accommodation and can be reasonably defined for the purposes of the district in assessing this file. And case law indicates that that amount is 90 days or less. So if an owner was to stay within their unit for a maximum amount of 90 consecutive days, we could consider them as being part of the traveling public for the purposes of seeking temporary accommodation within each unit. So, and that's been also described to the unit holders in the phase 2 building. So following all that, the district staff has been in receipt of a rezoning application in November of 2020 of this past year. This was a revised application from the agent representative of the 7 remaining unit holders within the phase 2 building that are still seeking a full-time residential use of their units. Attachment 9 provides the submission from the agent representative. And within that attachment is a requested text amendment to the CD5 zoning, which specifically reads, resort defined as a hotel with owner use restricted by section 219 covenant registered on title. District staff's perspective of this request is that the agent representative is trying to have the zoning conform to the covenant, which has no limitation on owner use days. Again, however, it's staff's interpretation that the covenant does not allow residential use. And regardless of that, the current zoning overrides the covenant, and therefore full-time residential use is not permitted. So given all of the above, the district has interpreted this rezoning request to mean that these 7 unit holders are requesting full-time owner-occupied residential use of their units. And for that reason, the following is an analysis of this rezoning request based on that interpretation. So in evaluating the merits of this request, we've considered the official community plan policy. I again previously mentioned the site is designated tourist commercial, which focuses uses on the need to service the traveling public. Section 4.2.7 indicates that the intent of this designation is to promote Summerland tourism, particularly focusing on the lakeshore area as an area for tourism growth. As well, section 7.5.1 indicates that tourist commercial facilities are mainly intended to service the traveling public. Section 7.5.2 indicates that permitted uses will focus on the need primarily, again, to service the traveling public, and uses shall include accommodations such as the Summerland Waterfront Resort, food and beverage uses, recreation, and entertainment uses to fulfill this function. And then further from that, section 16.3.3.2 of which is relevant to the Lower Town Strategic Plan, indicates that the redevelopment of the lands on the east side of Lakeshore Road within the Lower Town waterfront should focus on local convenience and tourism-related commercial uses supported by commercial accommodation. Again, at the time when the OCP was being developed, the resort was a potential opportunity, it was already in place, and so that commercial accommodation, I think, was referring to the resort at the time. With regards to the zoning bylaw, I mentioned the designation for the zoning bylaw is Comprehensive Development Zone 5. The purpose of the zone is to provide a zone to accommodate a resort development adjacent to Okanagan Lake. Again, the principal use and the only use is resorts, as defined as a hotel with individual cooking facilities being permitted in each guest room. The secondary uses indicate that the following uses and no other uses shall be secondary uses in the zone, and that's accessory buildings and structures, which is a fairly normal thing to see within our zones for secondary uses. So given all of these listed uses, it's very clear that residential use of these units are not permitted and have never been permitted within the Summerland Waterfront Resort. So to further assess this request, staff wanted to implore to council some of the implications of considering this request and in terms of the impact it may have on the strata for the operation of a resort hotel within our community. So although there are a small number of units, approval of this request by council will signal that the allowance of full-time residential throughout the entire resort, because there's nothing that's unique to these 7 units that is not also the same for the remaining 112 units that are left within the resort. As well, assessed and market values for a residential unit can be perceived to be substantially larger than a strata unit that's only for tourist commercial purposes. This is definitely reflective in the adjacent development at the Oasis condos, where the market value of those units are substantially higher than the tourist commercial units that are currently being advertised for sale within the resort. With that incentive, a lot of the unit holders would be wanting to take advantage of the potential for a full-time residential use allowance if council was to consider this request. And in addition to that as well, council is aware of the housing pressure that is being felt within the community, and definitely that allowing residential use will allow for the ease of renting out these units, or potentially the owners using them themselves for housing purposes. So with all of the above, council can expect that if consideration is given to these 7 units for residential use, that a further and more substantial rezoning application may be submitted, and potentially for all of the remaining strata units within the Summerland Waterfront Resort to full-time residential. And in fact, we have met with strata council representatives informally, and they have indicated that that would probably be the case as well. So, and then just in terms of what that would mean in terms of the potential loss of the resort hotel on the community, the strata council has provided some facts for council's benefit. That the resort hotel employs 60 people, and this staffing complement includes cleaning staff, front desk staff, event planners, entertainers, water sport services, as well as management staff. In 2019, the resort offered a total of 18,000 room nights a year, and each one of those room nights represent a new tourist staying within our community and injecting money into our local economy. And the resort indicated that amount of about $66 million in annual direct economic impacts from the resort operation that was expected from those 18,000 room nights. So given all of the above there, as what's been presented tonight, staff is recommending that council consider denial of this rezoning request. And if council is considering this rezoning request, that they be careful of the potential removal of the substantial, economic benefits for the resort in terms of its operation within Summerland's economy. And with that, I can pass it on to any questions.
Okay, council, before we have questions, I would like to invite Michael Drance, who is on the line here, to speak. And then if you have questions of him or questions of Brad, our Director of Development Services, then you can ask them after he's had the opportunity to speak. Mr. Drance, are you there still?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You have 5 minutes to speak, and you'll be given notification of when you are closing in on those 5 minutes, and you can start at any time. Please state your name, although we know your name. State your name and your civic address, please.
My name is Michael Drance. My address is 527-12811 Lakeshore Drive, Summerland. Courts do not look favorably on negligence. Negligence is really quite simple. It is defined as failing to act as a reasonable person or entity would in the same situation. Reasonable is defined as fair, equitable, and sensible. The District of Summerland was negligent in 2005 when they registered the Section 219 covenant on our titles. Would a reasonable council have entered an agreement that put them in violation of their own hotel definition? I say not. At that time, the zoning was TC1, a hotel was allowed, but the use in the covenant was not. Any sensible council would have realized that. A year later, they adopted the CD5 zoning. A reasonable council would have adopted zoning that allowed the use in the covenant already registered on the titles. Did they do that? No, negligent again. The staff report in front of you is 100% correct that a covenant cannot override the zoning. But what it fails to mention is that also, no matter what the zoning says, the parties must abide by the covenant agreement. A Section 219 covenant travels with the land, so both the present owners and the district have that obligation. Zoning is governed by statutory law and the covenant by contract law. Each stand alone, and everyone must abide by both, even though they're conflicting. That is absurd. Now, having discovered this in 2019, what would a reasonable Chief Administrative Officer and Director of Development Services have done? They would have corrected the zoning error and allowed us to use our units as they've agreed to in the covenant. Did they do that? No, negligent again. We rely 100% on the council's decision. You rely on the staff report being 100% correct. Brad and Graham relied that the APC report was correct. I have 2 simple questions for them that I would like answered later. 1, are you 100% sure your report is correct? I'm not talking about spelling or grammar, but the big items. 2, are you 100% sure that the Strata Council's letter is correct? I'm here to tell you that in the last year, I've spent 2,000 hours researching this and collecting evidence, and I can tell you 100% your report contains a lot of nonsense. I can also say that 100% the Strata's letter also contains a lot of nonsense. That is the reason why there are currently 20 legal proceedings, and just today we got the decision on the first one, and we won. The Strata Council said what we were doing by using our units exclusively was illegal. The CRT examined the zoning, the covenants, the hotel management agreement, everything, and they decided what we are doing with our units is not illegal. So that brings us to today. Would a reasonable council vote on a zoning amendment that is not the one I applied for? No, they would not. Read what I wrote, and you will see that the amendment in front of you is not what I applied for. Would a reasonable council rely on a staff report that they have been told is incorrect without fact checking first? No, they would not. That would be negligent. So what are you going to do? Negligently go forward or reasonably delay until you can consider the facts? Do you want to wait until you are taken to court and then forced to consider them, or avoid that? I suggest a reasonable council would want to avoid that. Remember, if we end up there, it will be your choice, not mine. So what is your decision? Number one, do you want to go ahead with your vote tonight and end up in court? Or two, delay until you can fact check. I'm happy to provide all the evidence to you and show you that Brad's report is full of nonsense. I don't have time now. You probably need an hour or two for me to go through all of the evidence and show you on paper what he is saying is totally incorrect. What the strata is saying is totally incorrect. So
You have 25 seconds remaining.
you know what? I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, council. Questions of Mr. Drance, or maybe we should have the questions for Mr. Drance first. If you need any clarification on anything. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I understand that you had said previously to staff that the zoning amendment that is on our agenda tonight is not what you've requested. And we're given the opportunity to say, withdraw it from the agenda tonight and work with them to correct whatever misunderstanding there may have been there. How come you haven't taken that opportunity?
That is exactly what I asked for, and I was told that I could not do that. I said that I would like to withdraw the application and have them amend it so that it accurately reflects what I applied for. I was told I could not do that. It would be a total removal of the application as opposed to just taking it off the agenda tonight and reconsidering it.
I don't understand.
Which part don't you understand?
Well, if it's got to be completely removed in order to be reworded.
I asked it to be removed from the agenda and to be reworded so that it accurately reflects what I applied for. I was told I either had to withdraw the entire application completely, not just remove it from the meeting tonight, because that's exactly what I asked for. I totally agree with you that it is ridiculous that you're voting on something I didn't even apply for. It's insane.
So it would have to come back at a different meeting after it'd been worked on.
That is exactly what I'm suggesting.
So if we turn it down tonight, you'll have that opportunity.
But I've got to completely reapply again. Another $500 to apply when you're voting on the application that I have not submitted.
Okay, are there any other questions of Mr. Drance?
What I'm saying is read.
Excuse me, Mr. Drance, this is not a back and forth conversation with you. This is an opportunity for councillors to ask questions for clarification. So, council, any more questions for Mr. Drance? All right, thank you. I'm going to ask again because we're not going to revisit this. Any other questions for Mr. Drance? Okay, questions for Mr. Dolovic then? Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I believe I read somewhere in the report or the correspondence concerning this that there was currently a case before a civil resolution tribunal or something like that, and that it would be a number of months before it was resolved. Is that the case? Because I couldn't find it again when I was looking at. Isn't there something before a body that would settle the matter on the existing zoning and then make, and if we did change any zoning right now, it would be changing things in the middle of the game?
Brad?
Yeah, through your worship, thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Mr. Durance, on behalf of the remaining unit holders, I think has submitted a number of CRT submissions, most of which are directed to the Strata Council, but there has been one directed to the district.
Do you have a follow-up question, Councillor Barkwell? Okay. Any other questions of Brad?
What was the CRT case for?
Any other questions of Brad? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brad, in regards to the principal uses of the property, I noticed that in the C5, I believe, zone, it does talk about hotel, but it does not specifically relate to other residential components as we see in other zoning in regards to single family dwellings. So when I read this, it comes to mind that the uses that is in that C5 are for hotel use with cooking facilities in the guest rooms. And so, and the 219 covenant does follow that wording in regards to the principal use of the zone.
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Patton. So the C5 zone is specifically states the resort use, which is linked to the definition of a hotel. And a hotel is defined within our zoning bylaw. And there's no other mention to residential use like you would find in our other residential use zones. So the reference to cooking facilities was due to the fact our hotel does not usually allow, our hotel definition does not usually allow cooking facilities within individual units, but so that was written specifically to allow for individual cooking facilities within each hotel unit for the resort's purposes.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when I look at the report, and I'm just trying to listen to what the applicant has said, if you go down into the report on the third, I believe it's the fifth page, it says, in addition, the applicants have requested a specific text amendment to the permitted uses of the CD5 zone to read, as a resort defined as a hotel with the owner's use restricted by the section 219 covenant registered on title. So can I assume, or should I not assume, that that's the piece that the applicant says we have excluded from this motion? Because it has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with the district's bylaw. Is that why it hasn't been put into this?
To address that comment from the agent representative, we have specifically included the submission as an attachment to council's report. It's what was provided to us in November of 2020. Again, in the report, yeah, we specifically pull out what was requested as a resort defined as a hotel with owner use restricted by section 219 covenant. But staff's perspective of that request is that is different than what Mr. Drance, I think, is requesting, in that the Section 219 covenant is a bone of contention here from the district's perspective, as well as the agent's perspective, in that the covenant allows for unrestricted owner use, but that's not the district's perspective. The district's perspective is that the covenant does not allow owner use, but is consistent with the zoning that states temporary accommodation only. So we perceived that what the request was being asked for was for unlimited owner use, which is for all intents and purposes full-time residential use, and that's the reason why we came to that conclusion in interpreting that request.
Thank you. So I believe that council has all the information then, and we have, as you've just stated, we do have the initial application, therefore should be able to make a decision based on all of what has been given to us on both sides of this. So thank you very much.
Any further questions, council? Okay, I will ask someone to bring forward a recommendation, please. Councillor Carlson?
The space bar is supposed to unmute this, but it didn't seem to want to work for me. All right. I will move that council deny the request for a site-specific text amendment in the tourist commercial designation to allow for residential use at 12811 Lakeshore Drive, the Summerland Waterfront Resort, and that council deny the request for a site-specific text amendment to the CD5 zone. Madam Mayor, you're on mute.
Pardon me, thank you. Councillor Trainer, were you raising your hand to tell me that, or seconding? Thank you. My apologies. Any further discussion on this motion? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None are opposed, so that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, on to 9.2, development variance permit at 10312 Dale Meadows Place, DVP 20-037. And this is for Alex.
Thank you. All right, I'm just gonna share my screen here. The district has received an application for variance to decrease the minimum required setbacks to facilitate the construction of a new single-family dwelling at 10312 Dale Meadows Place. In the OCP, the future land use designation of the subject property is low-density residential, and it is zoned RSD1 residential medium lot. These land uses are consistent with the neighboring properties. It should be noted that Prairie Creek runs through the subject property. As such, the entire property is affected by a watercourse development permit. An issued watercourse development permit is in place for the construction on the property. The applicant is requesting variance to sections 10.1.6 AI and 10.1.6 AVII in order to reduce the minimum required front setback and garage door setback from 6 meters to 5.5 meters. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance to section 10.1.6 AII to reduce the minimum required rear setback from 7.5 meters to 4.5 meters. Reducing minimum setbacks on residential properties isn't encouraged because it can disrupt from the form and character of a neighborhood. However, the variances proposed for this development are made out of necessity of existing physical constraints. The lot is disadvantaged in two ways. First, due to its position within the cul-de-sac, the property has a reduced lot depth. RSD1 lots typically have a minimum depth of 30 meters. However, 10312 Dale Meadows Place has a depth of only 26.1 meters. The presence of a watercourse on the eastern side of the property further limits buildable space due to the requirement to maintain a riparian area setback. Section 10.1.6A VII of the zoning bylaw requires all garage doors have a minimum setback of 6 meters from any public or private right-of-way, roadway, or easement. The intent of the garage door setback regulation is to create driveways with adequate length to allow vehicle parking without protruding into the street or sidewalks. The zoning bylaw requires 2 vehicle parking spaces on site for single-family development. The proposed home design includes a double-car garage that provides both required stalls. Further, the two additional parking spaces can be accommodated without overhang onto the sidewalk with the reduced 5.5 meter setback. Staff have recommended approval of the proposed setback variances as they are not anticipated to have any impact to the character of the surrounding neighborhood and the work the applicant has undergone to preserve the riparian area. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Alex.
There we go.
Thank you. Questions, council? Okay, I just have one question. You're talking about a 2-car garage. Could you bring up the, oh, no, never mind. We've got it in our, just have to find it again. The site plan. Here it is. No, yes, this is it. So off of Dale Meadows Place is I'm assuming the 2-car garage is the piece that's closest to the sidewalk, or I guess to the roadway, the cul-de-sac.
That's correct.
And it's like side by side there.
That's right.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other question? Councillor Van Elfen, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Put the motion on the floor.
Sure, if there are no further questions,
Thank you.
please go ahead.
That development variance permit DVP 20-0.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, just 1 second. Karen, do we have the applicant on the line? Does the applicant wish to comment?
No, Madam Mayor, there's no one on the line.
Okay, good. Sorry, thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. I just have to make sure they get the opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That development variance permit DVP 20-037 for property located at 10312 Dale Meadows Place, legally described as Lot 3, District Lot 474 ODYD, Plan KAP 91505, be authorized for insurance, and that the following variances, excuse me, to zoning bylaw 2000-450 be approved. And 1, the minimum front setback prescribed in section 10.1.6AI of the zoning bylaw number 2000-450 be reduced from 6 meters to 5.5 meters. 2, that minimum rear setback prescribed in section 10.16AI of zoning bylaw number 2000-450 be reduced from 7.5 meters to 4.5 meters. And 3, that minimum garage door setback from private roadway prescribed in section 10.16A VII of zoning bylaw number 2000-450 from 6 meters to 5.5 meters.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Seconder, Councillor Patton. Any further discussion? I'd just like to verify with you, Alex, that we didn't receive any correspondence on this. I don't see anything in the agenda package.
Oh, I believe there was one note of correspondence from the neighbor that was just a note of support.
Note of support. Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions or discussion, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, on to 9.3 non-farm use application at 5811 Giants Head Road, ALR 20-004. This is for Ariane. Ariane.
Yeah. All right. So the district received an application for a non-farm use located at 5811 Giants Head Road. The property's official community plan future land use designation is agricultural and it's zoned A1. And as you can see from the images here, these land uses are consistent with neighboring properties with the exception of some institutional land to the south. The property is also within the agricultural land reserve. And as a result, this is why we're looking at an application for a non-farm use from the Agricultural Land Commission. Part of the property also falls within a watercourse development permit area. And as such, any development that happens on this property unless exempt exempt from works as outlined within the official community plan will require a watercourse development permit. So the parcel south of the subject property is currently the location of Fortis BC's existing Trout Creek substation. And the image to the right is of the existing substation. And the applicant has noted that this current location or the equipment at this location is aging and as a result is becoming a greater risk of failure. So Fortis plans on rebuilding the substation and expanding it 500 meters squared onto the subject property through a statutory right-of-way as outlined in this image here. And in doing so, the applicant has noted that rebuilding and expanding the substation will increase the system reliability and resiliency, which will support the future agricultural and community needs of Summerland. So just to give a bit of context to the area where the proposed expansion is, so as you can see in the two images, so the area identified by the hedges as the existing substation and the grassy vacant land here will be, or is where they're proposing to expand. So policies within the official community plan strongly encourage the protection of agricultural land. Only under exceptional circumstances would staff support a land use that does not explicitly align with these directives, and any application that deviates from district policies must be considered on a case-by-case basis. In this instance, there is an identified need to rebuild and expand the substation to reduce the risk of failure and also to meet the district's future electrical needs. Given that the existing substation is within the ALR and that it's surrounded by properties within the ALR, expansion onto non-ALR land is not an option. So this application was considered by both the Agricultural Advisory Committee and also the Advisory Planning Commission. Both of these bodies supported the application and supported the application to be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration. They also both identified concerns with drainage that's within this area. And the Agricultural Advisory Committee also wanted to see some buffering for neighboring properties. So overall, due to the constraints of land use and the need to create a more resilient and more reliable system, staff recommend that this application be forwarded to the ALC for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, Karen, I don't see the applicant online. They're not on the phone. Fortis, a representative.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. There's
Okay.
no online.
Good, thank you. Okay, Council, do you have questions of Ariane? No questions, Varian. I did have one question. The address at 5811 Giants Head Road, that's where the ALR land is. Is that privately owned?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Mhm.
And so my assumption, oh, just a minute. So the statutory right of way, does it already extend into that land?
It does not. So that's the Fortis's way of being able to secure the land and to be able to use it for the substation.
Okay. And the owners, oh yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so those are my questions. Oh no, I have one other question. This is to do with process. So if this goes through, if this does go, if council supports this going forward to the ALR, and then the ALR gives their blessing, then the other things that the Agriculture Advisory Committee mentioned as concerns with the water course, the drainage and the buffering, those are things that our District of Development Services takes care of. The district's Development Services Department takes care of, making sure that those are in place. Is that right?
They would have to apply for a water course development permit in which they'd hire a qualified environmental professional to come and do an assessment on the property. So as soon as you touch the land, basically within that riparian area, unless you're exempt, which there are a few exemptions, they'd have to apply for that. And that would take drainage into account as well.
Okay, so but none of that needs to be done until we know whether or not the ALR has approved that, and then that's taken care of through district services, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, someone interested in bringing forward the staff recommendation or something else? Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That the non-farm use application ALR 20-004 for property located at 5811 Giants Head Road, legally described as Lot 17, Block A, District Lot 974, So Use Division Yale, District Plan 268, exempt plans 23317 and 37421 be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Seconder? Councillor Patton? Any further discussion? Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Previously, it was pointed out that district infrastructure was exempt from the riparian regulations. Would a utility infrastructure like Fortis be exempt, or they have to pay extra attention to the rules?
So when I was looking through our regulations, maintenance on existing infrastructure is exempt, but it doesn't specify anything to when you're rebuilding something. So from my understanding and my interpretation of our policies, they would be required to apply.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the vegetative buffer, would that be would we take a bond to make sure that that work was done? I just don't know how that we do that.
Yeah, so through the chair, Fortis is planning to build a fence around the property, but beyond that, they don't necessarily have to put a landscape buffer. We don't have any regulations in place to suggest that that's something that's required of them.
If I may, Madam Mayor, do we not have a bylaw that says we need a buffer between a vegetative buffer between industrial and residential? Does that apply here? Because would this not be classed as an industrial facility that abuts up to agricultural land? I thought there may have to be a buffer put in, like a vegetative buffer. I'm just asking the question. I don't know.
Yeah. Brad?
Yeah, we do have landscape buffers for the for agricultural properties that are next to residential development, but not per se for a industrial or institutional use within our zoning bylaw. So Ariane's correct. There is nothing within our zoning bylaw that would require the placement of the buffer, but if council does want to see that, they can put that as a conditional of their authorization tonight, given the feedback from the committee.
Graham, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, and just further to Brad's comment, I think Councillor Van Elfen makes a good point, because the existing site, looking at the pictures that were put up in the presentation, does have a vegetative type buffer currently around the three sides of it, and I think most of the front beside the road access. So even just to sort of restore what was originally there, it's a reasonable request in my view.
And so should that be included then in the motion, or is that, yes, it should be? Okay. So we already have a motion on the floor and seconded. So can we bring forward an amendment then? I guess that's the way to do it, is it, Karen? Okay. Does it, Councillor Van Elfen, would you? Thank you.
I'll take a shot at it. So be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration, and all vegetative buffers that are in existence today are going to be duplicated or restored on the new site. Does that make any sense? I don't know. Work with me.
Well, I can add the and that. I know that it should be and that.
Yeah. And that the new fencing there is includes vegetative buffers as exists today on the current site.
I see Karen cautiously nodding her head.
Help me out, Karen.
Yeah, possibly improve on that. That was beautiful.
Thank you for that assistance, Councillor Van Elfen. So again, be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration, and that the new fencing includes all vegetative buffers as exist today on the current site.
Oh,
I think the mayor's frozen.
I think Brad wanted to say something.
Yeah, I guess I will. Just Karen, just a friendly amendment to that proposed wording is that because you won't be able to restore the exact same landscaped area as to what was, because it's going to be an expanded area, that a landscaping buffer be restored for the new expanded site as a condition of approval, if that makes sense.
Take it off. There you go.
Oh, do you want to?
No, you go ahead. Okay. No, I'll just stand back here.
Sorry about that. That's bizarre. Sorry, I'm back. I don't know what happened. Both of my screens went black, and that was the end of that. So now I'm sitting in CEO Stats office, and I'm sorry, I'm not really sure. You brought forward the amendment. Could I hear you read the amendment again, Karen, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Land Commission for consideration, and that the new fencing includes all vegetative buffers for the new expanded site as exists today on the current site.
Okay, and did we get a seconder? Counselor, somebody has seconded that already?
But are we changing it to what Brad said?
I don't know. I took a little bit of an absence there.
That is what Brad had mentioned, Councillor Holmes.
Is it?
We
Yeah, so-
added that the buffers for the new expanded site are put in as exists today on the current site.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't try to confuse me, Councillor Holmes. Okay, I'm confused enough as it is. Now, did we get a seconder on the amendment? Councillor Patton, thank you. So, is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And now for the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries as well. Thank you. Here. Now on to item 13, information items. There are a few pieces of correspondence. Anything that someone would like to bring forward? Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to bring forward Marianne McDonald's letter to us dated January 14th. She quoted me there, and I just like to put those comments that she attributed to me in context. So I told her that all levels of governments have their priorities. Federal government has their priorities, provincial government has their priority, and we here in local government, we have our own priorities. And and that higher levels, what I found is that higher levels of government tend to provide grants. When they're providing grants that are lower to us, it's usually to meet their priorities. And so the challenge that we have many times is to, when applying for grants funding, is to seek grants that where our priorities align with the government priorities. And the organics collection that she talks about is an example of that. We're certainly a provincial priority, but it's also a priority of ours to reduce the amount of waste going into our landfill and to extend the life of our landfill like that. So it's a case of matching priorities, and so we apply for the grant. And we're not receiving grants for to resurface roads and do roads because those grants aren't available. And the only reason I can only assume that those grants aren't available because it's not a high priority for higher levels of government. So that's the context of what she was, where she quoted me on, and so I just wanted to explain further to everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Barkle.
I just have to say thank you, Councillor Holmes, for that explanation that I think many people will benefit from, and you know, it's a frustration of local government everywhere.
Okay, anybody else want to bring forward any items of correspondence? Okay, could I have somebody move that we receive those for information, please? Councillor Van Elfen and Holmes, all in favor? And none opposed. Okay. On to councillor reports. Let's start today with Councillor Carlson.
I don't think I have anything to report. Stay warm this week.
Nice haircut, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Van Elfen.
Nothing to report this week. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do you like my hair too?
Yes, I do. Very nicely taken care of. Councillor Traynor.
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Holmes.
No, nothing. I'm just visiting the same barber as Councillor Van Elfen, though.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to give a shout out to Heather Stuckey for my new do. Thank you all for noticing. That I have nothing else to report.
All right. Councillor Barkwell, have you been to the hairdresser or the barber or whatever?
I'm lucky. I've got a built-in barber. But I'd like to say we skipped past the notice of motion section of the agenda before I noticed. And as you know, I've been pointing out that greenhouse gases from solar energy are 4 to 5 times greater than the greenhouse gases from our hydro sources. And since the whole world, including Summerlanders, are concerned about greenhouse gases, and since Summerland is taking measures to reduce greenhouse gases, I will be proposing a motion that council cancel the solar project. I'll also be proposing that we correct the information on our solar site to remove the statement that the project is greener than our existing power, as that's not correct, and to include the statement that solar contributes 4 to 5 times the greenhouse gases that hydro does. I'm pretty sure that council, just really wasn't aware of this information previously, and I think that should be part of the consideration. So yeah, I will also provide some backup information and details and references in a report to council for the meeting next week.
Okay, just a minute. Sorry. First of all, my apologies, Councillor Barkwell. I'm a little flustered by being in another office and I flipped this over and I completely missed the notice of motion. So I apologize for that. Is this your intent to make a notice of motion, or is this your notice of motion?
That is my notice of motion, which and such motion I hope will be on the agenda in the next 2 weeks from now.
Councillor Carlson?
Well, I think if we're going to start talking about the impacts of solar and the impacts of hydro on the world, then we need to have a full look at the other ecological impacts that our energy has. So, for example, what is the ecological and the ecosystem impact of building a hydroelectric power dam? There's other things that aren't greenhouse gases that are causing destruction of our environment and that are causing problems. And so I would suggest that if this comes forward, there will be more notices of motion, and staff is going to have to start to focus on something broader than just solar and just what you think is correct.
Okay. The thing about a notice of motion is we're not really supposed to be discussing it at this point. Karen, does this satisfy the requirement for a notice of motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe so, and certainly if Councillor Barkwell is able to forward us information before the next meeting, then we can have further details on the agenda on the 22nd of February.
Okay, great, thank you. Councillor Holmes, you had your hand up as well. No? Okay. Okay, so again, I apologize, Councillor Barkwell. And then now on to the opportunity for the public or the media to comment. And there is one person. Is he going to comment publicly, Karen? My list shows that he is going to be joining us by Zoom. That's Mr. Tom Newton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just seeing if he is still there. I do not see that Mr. Newton is there. Just, yeah, I do not see Mr. Newton there at this point, Madam Mayor.
Okay, well, thank you. So then I'm going to ask for adjournment of the regular evening council meeting. Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Patton. All in favor? Okay,